little girl named Meg found a house she was never supposed to find. Meg was small, quiet, and serious-looking, with long dark hair, a red headband, and a bright red jacket that made her look braver than she felt. That afternoon, she had drunk too many sodas, and now she needed a bathroom badly. She was supposed to be going home, but the road seemed longer than before, and the trees leaned in like they were whispering secrets. Then she saw it. A big, scary house sat at the end of the path. It looked old, forgotten, almost alive. The windows were dark. The porch sagged. The front door stood open just enough to look like a mouth. Meg knew she should not go inside, but she really had to go. So she stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked under her shoes. She pushed the door open, and the house breathed cold air into her face. Inside, everything smelled like dust and rain. The hallway stretched farther than it should have. Meg took one step, then another, and then she saw the ghost. He stood right in front of her. A young boy, pale and glowing, with sad eyes and clothes that moved even though the air was still. Meg froze. Her mouth opened, but no scream came out. She ran behind the door and hid, pressing herself flat against the wall. She waited, listened, and peeked. The ghost was still there. Meg squeezed her eyes shut. When she opened them, it was gone. Slowly, she crept outside to check the porch. No one was there. The yard was empty. The trees were still. Meg let out one shaky breath. Then she turned around. The ghost was staring at her from inches away. This time, Meg screamed. She on the steps, across the yard, and into the trees. She did not look at the path. She should have turned right, toward home. Instead, she went straight ahead. She missed the sign, dead end. By the time Meg stopped running, the sky was darker. The forest had swallowed the road. She turned in a circle, searching for another sign, another path, anything familiar. There was nothing. Meg was lost. She sat under a tree and cried. She wished she had never gone inside, never drunk all those sodas, and that someone would come find her. Then, between the bushes, she saw two glowing eyes. At first, she thought it was the ghost, but the paws were huge. It stared at her like it had been waiting all night. Meg tried to climb the nearest tree, but her foot slipped and she fell. The lion came closer. So Meg ran to a bigger tree with low, strong branches. Back home, Meg did gymnastics. She knew how to grab, swing, and pull herself up, even when her arms shook. She jumped, caught a branch, and climbed higher and higher until the lion could not reach her. Below, it circled the trunk. After a long while, it growled, turned away, and vanished into the forest. Meg stayed in the tree all night, curled against the branches, cold and tired, watching the moon move through the leaves. Sometimes she thought she heard footsteps. Sometimes she thought she heard a little boy whispering. But when morning came, the forest looked almost normal again. Meg climbed down and found a path leading out. She followed it with her heart pounding. Soon the forest opened, and Meg smiled because she thought she was safe. But waiting in front of her was the haunted house. Again. Meg backed away. Then she saw an owl on the front steps, injured and weak, blinking up at her. Near the bushes, a wolf was hurt too, scratched by something bigger and stronger. Meg was scared of the house, the forest, everything. But she could not leave them. She gently picked up the owl, then helped the wolf as best she could, careful not to scare him. The animals were heavy and frightened, but Meg carried them down the right path, the one she should have taken before. At last, she reached a small restaurant by the road. The owner came outside and asked what was wrong. Meg told him everything she could. The house, the ghost, the forest, the lion, the owl, and the wolf. The owner did not laugh. He called for help. Soon, animal doctors arrived and took the owl and wolf away. Finally found her way back home. She was exhausted. Her clothes were still damp from the cold night, and her mind were spinning with everything that had happened in the woods and inside that terrifying haunted house. She didn't stop to think about it. She went straight to her room, climbed into her bed, and fell asleep almost immediately. For a while, everything was quiet. Then Meg opened her eyes. She was standing in the middle of the woods. The same woods, tall, twisted trees surrounding her, their branches moving slowly in the cold wind. A thick mist covered the ground. Meg looked around. No, she recognized the path. It was the exact place she had just escaped from. This can't be happening. I'm home! A faint sound coming from somewhere between the trees. Crunch. Crunch, crunch. Someone was walking toward her. Meg held her breath. Hello? No answer. The little girl slowly raised her hand, pointing. Its front door was left that place. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. Inside came a faint whisper. Meg? Her heart began pounding. How does it know my name? Step by step, she walked through the front door. Inside, everything looked exactly as she remembered. The long hallway, the dusty furnitures, the old paintings, the flickering lights. Meg noticed something strange. On the wall was a photograph. She walked closer. It was a picture of her. Meg stared at it in disbelief. But that was me. She reached toward the photograph. The moment her finger touched the glass, the picture changed. Now Meg was standing inside the haunted house, and beside her was a dark figure. She spun around. Meg screamed and ran. Raced down the hallway, opened the door, and found herself back in the woods. She stopped, confused, and going in circles. Suddenly, she heard footsteps near her. She ran faster. The trees blurred around her. The mist grew thicker. Then she saw something glowing in the distance. A small light. Meg ran toward it. The light became brighter and brighter until she could barely see. Then, everything went completely white. Mead suddenly opened her eyes. She was back in the room. She sat up and looked around. She touched her face. I was dreaming. She slowly climbed out of bed. Everything was normal. Her room was quiet, safe. She walked toward the window and looked outside. The sun was beginning to rise. Meg sighed with relief. It was only a dream. She turned away from the window. Then she heard something. Knock. Meg froze. Knock. Knock. The sound coming from her bedroom window. She slowly turned around. Her face went pale. On the other side of the glass was a small handprint. A muddy handprint. Exactly like the one she had seen inside the haunted house. Meg stepped closer. Then a whisper came from its side. Meg. She backed away. The room suddenly became cold. And somewhere in the distance, a little girl gubbed to laugh. Meg stared at the window. Maybe she had never really left the woods. Maybe she had never really escaped the haunted house. Or maybe she was still dreaming.